Welcome to the Front Seat Life podcast. This is Jessica Butts, your host and CEO and creator of Front Seat Life, where I help you be unapologetically who you are in your life, love, and business. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. So Nadia is back to talk about step number 3 of the 8-step process of the girl boss lineage, if you will. So it's really being unapologetically who you are. The shift is what I'm calling it, like the shifting from the squirrel to structure. And then it's this. And so the next step is really your mess is your message. And you, my friend, will be amazed if we get through this without some tears, but you are a really good example of this. So for those who didn't listen to your first episode, tell us a little bit about your background and a therapist and all of that.
Okay, I am a retired and recovering psychotherapist, and I am a transformational life coach. I have been in the business of healing and helping people for 19 years, and I moved into coaching about 3 years ago. And you want me to get into it now?
Yeah, sure.
So I was a therapist for 16 years and took a break and went to Thailand with my family for 5 weeks and came home. And within a week, my son unexpectedly died. And as you could imagine, my whole life fell apart. And
his name's Jack.
And his name's Jack, and he was 8.5, and he is my heart and my soul. And my whole world was just collapsed. And I clearly stopped seeing clients for, I don't even know how long, because the whole first year was a blur. But that was in February of 2016. And I had a moment on the floor of his room, because I would just go in there and just cry on the floor. And I didn't want to feel the pain. I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to live life without him. And I was just like, I was like, maybe I'm just going to live a passively suicidal life, just waiting to die. And in the next moment, my grandmother came to me, and she at the time was 98, and she actually just recently passed at almost 102. And in that moment, I was like, I'm probably going to be here a really long time because I have a lot of her genes, and thank God. But this passively suicidal life is going to be even more miserable than how I'm feeling in this moment. And that choice came to me: live the passively suicidal life or transform the shit out of the worst possible experience I will ever experience ever in my life. And through that process of, okay, I cried in his room. I mean, I would literally spend like hours in his room, and I would cry in there. I would journal. I would meditate with him. Eventually, I was able to incorporate exercise back into what I was doing because I knew it put me in a better mental state. And through this process, I wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm going to transform the shit out of my life and I'm going to transform the shit out of other people's lives. But it was really like, I need to do these things to just get myself up off the floor and function for my twin daughters, for my husband, for me. And it was through this experience that I was like, okay, I think maybe now I'm ready to like, maybe go see a client again, and I cleared house because I was just like, I can't tolerate people just looping their same story and not wanting to change their lives when they have that choice to do it.
And the ability.
And I was like, I remember one of my clients who is amazing, and she would just every once in a while text me saying, I'm just checking in on you. I just want to make sure you're okay. And she was one of the first ones that I saw again. And she said, when I get wrapped up in my shit,
totally,
I think of you. And I was like, if she can get up every morning and do what she's doing and help people, I could get through my shit.
Yeah.
And so through rebuilding my practice, like I said, I cleared house and I basically rebuilt my business from scratch 3 years ago. And intuitively, I was already doing coaching with my therapy clients, but it was, because I'm like, look, you have that choice.
Yeah.
You could be stuck in your victim for the rest of your life. This is the story that you are choosing to stay in or not. How can your life be better? How can you, if you're going to be here, why not live the best life you could live?
Yeah.
Man's Search for Meaning is one of my favorite
Oh,
books.
yeah.
And
Viktor Frankl.
Yeah.
Yep.
Read it in undergrad, reread it about a year after Jack died.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he said was, when patients come into my office, the first thing that I ask them is, why haven't you committed suicide yet?
Oh, wow. Wow.
And I was telling this to my husband. He's like, please tell me they're not going to start asking. I said, I'm not going to ask them directly, but I am going to bring this up. Because what is keeping you here? Yeah. Why are you here? What's your purpose? Be curious about it. But just don't live this fear-based life, wishing and imagining something's going to be different if you don't take the steps to make it different.
And don't you think, Nadia, that there's people that have that same mentality that haven't even had the traumatic experience of losing their son in a very, very, very difficult way?
Right.
And I'll only let you share that if it's even relevant.
It's not relevant.
And I believe, and we've talked about this, so I may let you talk about this because this might seem really like insensitive for me, but we've even had that conversation that you believe what happened now for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, I think I come from the belief and the standpoint that we're all here learning and growing. And when we are done as a soul learning and growing, we die. And so I think it's because of all the psychological work that I've done, the spiritual work that I've done, there was a part of me that got it, and got that, like, Jack was a super wise, awesome, amazing, heartfelt soul. And he learned all he needed to learn, and on that level, I get it. On the mom human level, I work every day. I work every day to integrate, like, okay, this happened, and what am I going to do with it? And when I get hit by these grief tsunamis, I let them happen, and part of that journey is feeling all the feelings when they come up. Yeah. And I'm a firm believer of, like, the only way through it is through it. Yeah. And journaling was a big part of it. And I would journal to him. And my belief is that I continue to have a connection with him and I continue to have a relationship with him. He's just in another form.
Yeah. So tell the listeners, because I have so many things I want to talk about, but tell the listeners, because you're starting to go there, of what are some of the things. So this whole episode is about your message. And how...
And I was a big mess.
Yeah. I mean, it's the biggest.
Yeah, it is the biggest.
There's nothing bigger than losing a child. I am
every mother's biggest...
Yeah, or fear. 1,000%. And you're right. Yeah, and you're living it right. Beautifully.
Thanks.
When you were a total mess and now.
Yeah.
But...
And don't get me wrong, I still have the messy days, and again, it's the choice going, okay, this is what I got. This isn't going to change. Yeah. And how let me feel it and journal and meditate and exercise and get myself in the right mindset so that I could be the best person that I could be in this life.
So what are some of those things? And you're mentioning them right now. Yeah. So you're on the floor. I don't know if I want to live. I've got 2 twin daughters. I have a wonderful husband. I have a life. I have got my grandma. I have this practice. I have friends. You are an incredibly dynamic, incredible human being. What were the things?
Meditating. And what I would do is I would actually I would visualize myself with Jack. And that just made my heart whole. in the way that it could. So
and what so many people do during grief, right, is they don't want to talk about it. They want to shut it out, oppress it, don't think about him, don't meditate about him, don't think about being with him, like shut the door.
Right.
But you're saying do the exact opposite.
I'm saying this is what worked for me, because I was like, you know what? Again, the only way through it is through it.
Yep.
And so I knew that I had to walk through the fire.
Yep.
And I didn't want to cut any corner, because I didn't want to get bitch slapped later on by something bigger where I'm, something is going to happen. Not something's going to happen, but like I'll start having panic attacks, or I wouldn't, I wanted to make sure that I left no emotional stone unturned.
Awesome.
And,
that's powerful.
I haven't even been able to reread those journals because it's way too painful. And most of those pages are me writing to him and just, and missing the crap out of him, and just knowing that I had such these like wells of emotions and feelings that needed to come out, that journaling was the only way that I could get them out in a really healthy way, aside from going to a grief therapist and doing all that work.
So grief therapy, meditating that you're with him and having a connection and having a relationship with him. One of my graduate school professors had one of the most profound sayings is that death ends a life, not a relationship.
Right.
And so meditating with Jack and being with him, journaling. So these are three things.
And I would talk to him in journaling. And whether I was making it up or what, but I would hear him.
Of course.
And he would talk back, and he still does, and it's like, and he shows up in all these amazingly brilliant whales all over the place. When I was pregnant with him, I would have whale dreams. Never in my life, ever have I had a whale dream. When I was pregnant with him, I would have whale dreams all the time. And then when he was 3, he got super into whales. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then
that's crazy.
Yeah.
And now you see whales everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah. That's our connection. And so it's about being open to the possibility that it's not just death and then it's over. And so and that being said, I would give everything to have him back too. Like bottom line, but it's like, okay, here I am, I'm in this space and now I have this choice. And what do I want to do? How do I want to get up off the floor? Yeah. How am I going to do it? And eventually my girlfriends, God bless them, they were amazing. They were like, okay, we know exercise is important to her and we hate all these classes and we're going to take her by the hand and literally go with her. And they did. And I'm like forever grateful to these women. And then once I kind of kept going, they're like, okay, good. We don't have to do this anymore. But it was, it's great to exercise. But what it did was that it just put me in the headspace. Like, I need to do these things. I need to do these things in the morning so that I could function during my day, and then as time has moved on, I continue to do the things. Do I do all 4 of those things every day? No. Do I do at least 2? Yeah. And so now it's like extra bonus points, and so through this whole experience and saying goodbye to probably 90% of my clients, and I was seeing at least 20, 25 clients a week and rebuilding, it's a totally different game, and it's like, I kind of joke, like if a victim comes into my office, they don't last very long.
Yeah. So let's go there. Let's go there. Because this is an episode about your message around your business. And thank you for sharing your very personal, intimate story. And it has become a catalyst, as I believe it should be. I believe this is not gross in any way. It's about taking our pain and transforming it to help others.
Right.
With the best, wonderful intentions possible. And so, I talk a lot about something that is obviously not nearly as traumatic, but having an oppressive relationship and being with an addict and being cheated on and leaving that marriage and starting my life over and being self-made. And that really is, my mess has been my message.
Right.
As now this mess, which again, as you would take it back in a heartbeat, is now I can sit on the floor and I've had my more kitchen floor moments, and I can sit here and be a fucking victim to mine was a person and yours is a circumstance of I can stay in this victimhood and I can blame and I can do whatever. Or I can use some tools. I can put my big girl panties back on. I can pray. I can meditate. I can have great friends, whatever I need to do to get myself back empowered to then. And again, we're not thinking about it in the moment. I mean, I wasn't even a therapist at the time I was going through all of this. And so it wasn't even my message for sure. But that then becomes this message. So tell me how this is now like transforming into your book and speaking and really, really understanding victimhood. Because again, I remember being a therapist and going through like infidelity work with her and being like, oh my God, you're really good, but you have no effing idea actually what this is like. Like you don't get it. Or going to a therapist who doesn't understand addiction. Like, God bless you, but you don't get this. And so now going through and truly, truly understanding the biggest grief there is, like, how is that now your message? The mess becomes the message.
Well, I think, one of the most powerful things is that it levels the playing field. A lot of times when people come into my office, it's like, as a therapist, it's like, we're supposed to be quiet. We're not supposed to say anything. We're supposed to just listen. I'm like, well, here's the deal. If you're walking in these doors, you need some feedback, But what happens is there is, from the client's perspective, like, a lot of times they think we're like omnipotent and that we've got our life together and we know all the things and we're doing all the things and that we have this like perfect, air quote, life. And when I share my story, because I share it with my clients, it absolutely levels the playing field. And in that, they're like, okay, I can trust her.
Yep.
And if she's, like I said, with my other client, like if she could get up every day and make this choice to live the life that she is living, I can make changes too. Yep. And so through this system, I started to do retreats, and then I created, my authentic soul self pyramid, which is codependency, which is a cloaked word of fear, moving through codependency, which is the victim, the rescuer, the persecutor, learning how to set boundaries, learning how to love yourself, and becoming your authentic self. Like, who are you meant to be in this life? And not live this cookie cutter life and not live in fear. Again, people are like, I'm their biggest fear, and on some strange, aha moment, after this happened, I'm like, I don't have anything else more to fear.
Wow.
So speaking in front of, a room full of people, like, I was freaking out before, but I'm like, I went through that. I could do this, and so that's always what I kind of come back to. Like when fear comes up for me, it's like, oh, okay, sure. Why not? I'm just going to do it. Because if I could get through this, I could get through anything. Not that I need anything big and huge like that to happen again.
No, it's done. It's done. You've had your
thing.
Yeah.
My girlfriend's like, you need to come back as like the Dalai Lama.
Yeah, yeah. You've had your thing.
That I just went through.
All right, everybody. Can I get a drum roll, please? Ladies, are you an entrepreneur that is overwhelmed? You need to get out of one-to-one and hours for dollars. Has your messaging become boring or vanilla? Do you need to build a team? Do you need to have a more clear message to start up-leveling your game and attracting the right clients? Let's get honest. Do you need to get your shit together with your systems and your structure? Do you need to go from a solopreneur to an entrepreneur and hire a team and have help? Do you need to boss up? Do you need to quit treating your business like a hobby, for gosh sakes? Do you want to learn how to make a passive and leveraged income? And quite honestly, who wouldn't want this? But would you like to make more money and work less? If the answer to any of those was hell yes, then you need to get your butt to the once a year Front Seat Life event. It is streamlined, up-leveled, less hoopla, more connection, and it is in the gorgeous downtown Seattle in beautiful September here in Seattle at the Sheraton Grand, September 19th, 20th, and 21st. Thursday night, we're having a party. Friday, I am going to just give every single bit of content to you. No fluff, no bullshit, no hoopla. Just all amazing content and connection and just high level. And then Saturday, we will meet for a half a day. You get to connect with high-level entrepreneurs. You get to be where the action is at. So you might meet somebody in that room that is going to change your life. Get your butt there. Tickets are ridiculously inexpensive. Grab a friend, get yourself here. The room rates are fantastic. You are not going to regret this. I know what you're thinking. I may not be qualified. I don't need this. Let me tell you, 1 year from now, you're going to be in the exact same stuck spot in your job if you don't make this decision now. It is affordable. It's enough days for you to get away. Tell your spouse, tell whoever's in your life, I am going to go do this for myself so that I can finally start taking my business seriously. That's it, friends. Get yourself there. The link to come join us in Seattle is in the show notes, or go over to jessicabutts.com. A pop-up will pop up. It will be the simplest thing you've ever done. There's no digging. You don't have to find it. Go to jessicabutts.com, get yourself enrolled. And I cannot wait to hug you and see you and talk directly to you. It's a small, intimate group, and we will be able to connect, and it will be the best decision you've made in your business in a very, very, very long time, or ever. See you there.
But it is one of those things where, and again, I wasn't thinking, this is how I'm going to build my business.
No.
And even like sharing this part of me and Jack is super vulnerable. And part of me on some level was like, oh God, are people going to think that I'm sharing my story to like profit off of it? And it's like, that's the absolute
And if anybody thinks that, then fuck off.
Right.
And you're not my client anyway. I mean, gross.
Totally.
Yeah, gross.
Totally. I'm like, I'm sharing this to show you I'm proof that you can move through whatever it is you're going through.
And I can help you.
Yeah. And be like the 2.0 version of yourself.
Yeah, I love that. The 2.0 version. So I was just thinking when you were talking, I wrote a little note down here that in business and in life, the 2.0 version of ourselves, just to use that language you just used, is that I think in our businesses, we can get so stuck, right? Even when we've been in a business for a long time, you've been a therapist for 19 years, or we've just been alive for a long time, we get very stuck in our old ways. And we forget, I think, as practitioners, as healers, as coaches, as whatever you guys are that are listening, is that we forget to take our own experiences through these years and to utilize it in a way to help other people. Again, it's not about them, it's not about weird codependency or them trying to rescue you. It's about being able to be vulnerable, to share our story, to know that we're in it with you, that we are authentic and real and genuine and transparent and open human beings, and that we're not better. It's just we're a little bit further along.
Right.
And so now, as I get to help the people that I get to help, you get to help these people because you've actually done the stuff. You've been able to say, nope, it was not easy. And I did it anyway.
Right.
In the midst of the most traumatic thing that somebody can go through.
Right.
And how different is that? I mean, I'll be transparent. There's a couple people in our industry right now that are very hell-bent on, I think, trying to look perfect. And I've said this for years. I think they look like idiots. I just think they straight up look like idiots because they try to be perfect, or they only post whatever, like, perfect things, and it's not relatable. Right. And so when we can step in and share the mess of our lives as a learning tool, I think everything shifts.
Absolutely.
And so how has that happened for you? You just recently did a speaking gig. We're now talking about, as your coach, we're talking about you writing a book and sharing this message. How is embracing this mess becomes your message shifted things in your business for you?
Well, it's empowering, and again, at the beginning, like, I was like, I don't want to share the experience that I had, like, just in life. I didn't want to, I was like a zombie for a really long time, where I was like, I don't want to go out. I don't want to see anybody. I don't want anybody to ask how many kids I have. I don't want to ask at all the things that are just so normal. I was like, I can't do any of that. But then as I started to kind of work my process and started to share, it integrated not only on a healing level for me, but I was able to channel that into a business and a business structure that I could, it doesn't matter. Like, you don't need to have gone through grief or like a major thing, but it's like, let me help you live out of fear-based thinking, which I think women in particular do, so it's like, what's your purpose? Why as a soul did you come down?
Yeah.
Was it to work in corporate? No.
Yeah. Or the victimhood, or the persecutor, or the martyrism. Like, we all show up in these different ways. And it's about, like, quit with the victimhood. Like, you lost your son.
Right.
And I'm a huge martyr. Like, we all have our own, like, victim triangle thing. But instead, like, how am I going to own my own shit and my own responsibility and just show up as a human being in this world and go after your dreams and goals in life? And how are you going to do that?
Right.
But I think this is an epidemic for sure in therapy, is that we were just having this conversation kind of on our little break here, is that there's a lot of staying in our victimhood. And I actually believe, unfortunately, that part of the therapy world right now, as both former therapists, is that there is almost something about keeping people in that victimhood and replaying the traumas. Like, at some point, it's like we know the traumas and we go back and visit them. I call it, like, we wear it in our backpacks. Like, I can come out at any time and, like, pull it out of my backpack and be like, oh, right, that's that fucked up thing that I keep coming back to. Like, great, all right, tuck it back in. But there's the lesson. I got it. I remember. Like, your past isn't going to change.
Nope.
Unless you have suppressed memories, all the shit's already there. And people are always like, oh my God, the same thing keeps coming up. I'm like, because it's the thing. It's the only thing, or the 5 things, and by the way, it's only usually like 2 or 3 or 4 things
and
that
you'll
are your
probably
thing.
have those for the rest of your life.
For sure.
So why not learn how to deal with it so that when it comes up again, you have the tools to deal with it. And you're like, oh, there's the thing. Oh, it's coming out of my backpack.
Yeah.
Okay, I do these things.
Yes.
And then it tucks back in.
And I love how simple you made that just sound, but I'm going to be honest, I think it is that simple sometimes. And we live very much in a society that says, this WASP thing. I don't really know WASPs. Thank God I didn't grow up that. I know you grew up with this. That I'm not going to talk about the thing. We're not going to do the thing. I don't want to uncover my past. I don't want to, explore the fact that my mom hurt my feelings or my dad wasn't around, or I'm not going to talk about that shit. I'm here to tell you, you need to talk about that shit.
And it doesn't through it is through it.
And it doesn't mean you need to sit in it forever.
Right.
You need to identify it, know what the thing is, put it back in your backpack, and then again, you're going to need to pull it out all the time. The day I die, I will still have the same traumas. It's going to be the same issues from when I was a kid and my marriage that are going to haunt me the rest of my life. It just is what it is, but I'm glad I know what they are. Otherwise, I'm going to go into my business and every single relationship with the same stuff.
Right. Well, and then it's also, there's a secondary gain to living in that victim, whether it shows up as the martyr or the persecutor. It's like, oh, okay, well, What's my secondary gain? Oh, I don't have to take responsibility for my life. Because if I did have to take responsibility for my life, major changes might have to happen. And so there's that secondary gain of, okay, well, I could just stay in my shit.
How many people, I don't think a lot of people listening to this podcast that resonates with, but if it did, your stomach just turned.
Right.
Because that is truth fucking telling right there.
Yeah.
That's just telling the truth. And there's a lot of people that like to spin in their victimhood, but that's why I love that you have the message that you have, because it's like, hey, I could stay there. I could have stayed in my, I got cheated on and
why does this happen to me?
Everybody's gonna cheat on me. You know what? Nobody has ever cheated on me except him for the rest of my life, because I choose to not have that mentality.
Right.
Like, that's just absurd. Or I could, as a woman, go into like, this is always gonna happen to me and blah, blah, I'm gonna...
All men are assholes, all men are cheaters. Well, and then that's what you're manifesting, right?
It's such like what is playing prophecy
in your brain is what you're going to create in your life. And I tell my clients all the time, instead of asking, why did this happen to me, or why me, say, why did this happen for me?
Wow.
What is it that I need to learn about myself through this experience? Because shifting that word from 2 to 4 changes everything, and your life trajectory goes in a completely different way. What do I have to learn from this?
And if you can say that, anybody can say that.
Right.
And that is why I wanted to have you on today, because if you can say that, anybody can say that. So as we wrap this up, I'm putting you a little bit on the spot, but I'm very curious, like the biggest takeaways of this experience for the listeners about whether it's business related or life related, but what are the biggest lessons you have learned from this incredibly traumatic experience in your life?
That anybody has the power to change their lives, no matter what the circumstance is, and so, and again, like when people see me, it's like, oh, okay. Like if she could do it, I could do it, and so that's the biggest takeaway, that it's like, okay, you know what? I stepped into my power. I was like, all the things that I was afraid of, public speaking, writing a book, shifting my business, I'm all doing it now. Cause I'm kind of like, well, fuck it. It's not going to be as scary as what I just went through, and so there's a, being able to trust and to step into that unknown, and know that when you do step into the unknown, it's going to be okay. You're going to get supported. And with business, it's like, try it, and try if things aren't working. And if they don't work, then shift it and try something else, but always ask yourself, like, well, what's the alternative? If you're a girl boss, and you're like, I'm not quite sure, and I don't know, and I feel like this is the way I should go, but then, the fear starts to come up. What's your alternative? I'm like, I have 2 hands up, and it's like, go back to corporate America.
Yeah.
And you know what? Some people love corporate. Great. Good for them. Not me, and it's like, when you start to look at, okay, well, what's the alternative? You keep going.
Yeah.
And it is about, it's stretching yourself, and it's going, okay, this is what I got. These are the circumstances. And what am I going to do to create the best life that I could live, whether it's in business or in life?
Yeah. I think as you're 47? Yeah, and I turned 46 on Sunday. I was just having a moment this morning while I was journaling that the older I get, and you hear this when you're younger, right? You hear this when you're younger and you're like, whatever, you fucking old lady. But I think now there's this sense of calm, I think, that comes from getting older, that life is about new chapters. And when you're younger, I don't think you can see that. I think I'll just speak for myself. You can't see that. It's just so devastating. And I posted something recently on my Instagram page of just this meme that just said, I really like this new chapter. Yeah. And knowing that you're going to have these crazy, horrible chapters, but that they can lead to a new chapter, and that we are given whatever we're given for whatever reason. And it's what you do with it. Again, back to Viktor Frankl, back to Man's Search for Meaning. Like, let's, tie this up with a nice little bow of that. You are in control of your response to everything around you. And I think that's the biggest message from Viktor Frankl's book, is that he was in a concentration camp. Yeah, he was in this concentration camp and
for years. He was in 3. He was in 3 and he survived 3 concentration
and actually ended up having a good attitude about it and shifting his attitude in truly like the worst circumstances ever, of that this is what it is, and I can be a victim to these circumstances that are awful, just as yours were, or mine were, whatever your circumstances are. Whatever your mess is. And that I can choose. And granted, you didn't choose in 6 months or a year or, I mean, how long?
3.5 years.
There you go. Yeah. I just said, that's so funny. And again, my divorce was nothing compared to losing Jack, but it took, sometimes I'm embarrassed that it took like 3 years to kind of get over that.
Yeah.
And that it took 3.5 years. Like all we're saying right now is like, you're not going to put your big girl panties back on in 6 months.
Right.
Like you're going to have a hot fucking mess. You're going to be a mess. And quite honestly, we're going to still be a mess. You're still a mess. I'm still a mess.
Absolutely.
It's what we're doing.
And we're human. That's why.
Yes.
And one thing I want to say, to the people out there who want to start their own business, look and reflect back on your life and go, okay, I got a freaking PhD in grief, in transformation, in, an ego death of who I thought I was versus what I am now, and so, look back at your life, look at the messes, see if there are, any connectors, because that's your PhD. That's that, you could go to school until you're blue in the face and get, like I said in the last episode, I went to an Ivy League school, but all the work that I do has nothing to do. What did I learn in graduate school? Time management, pretty much.
And how to be a therapist and how to connect the dots. Yeah. It's just not what we do now.
Right. How to read 300 pages in a week. That's what I learned how to do. Yeah. But through my experiences and hey, I'm just a few steps ahead of you, you could get there too. Yeah. But you have to go through this mess in order to get there. Yeah. There are no shortcuts.
Yeah. In life and in business.
Absolutely.
And it's so, we're going to end there because that was the perfect ending, is that this is the life mess. And then the business mess we kind of talked about earlier is that none of it's easy.
Nope.
None of it is easy.
Right.
But if you want something different or better, or whatever the word is that you want to use, you have to go through the hard stuff. You got to feel the feels. You got to put in the effort with the business. You got to put your effort into your grief, but it will, if you stick to it, will get you the results that you want.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I love you too. All right. I'm going to end up here. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
All right, everybody, I have a confession to make. I have a new obsession, and that obsession is reading your ridiculously wonderful, loving, amazing reviews on iTunes. I love them. None of this even matters without all of you. So as a thank you, each week I will be reading one review on air and calling out your review with your name or your iTunes handle. So here's how it's going to go. You're going to go to Instagram and follow me at Front Seat Life. When you hear your name called out on the podcast, you are going to send me a DM with your address and say, "Oh my gosh, you just read my review." And I or my team will be sending you some Front Seat Life swag. We've got books and we've got tank tops and we've got journals and we have these adorable pink swells. So we will be choosing from the goodie bag and sending it out as a thank you. So thank you in advance. And I am so deeply honored to have the opportunity to thank you back. All right, everybody. Today's review comes from JJ Beth 32. A wonderful 5-star review on iTunes. Thank you so much. And the title is Binge Listening. This person writes, love this new podcast. Jessica is so relatable and presents useful information in a fun way. I enjoy hearing her perspective and have been listening to her episodes non-stop. Well, of course, when my kids aren't around, because I swear a little bit, for those of you who don't know. It is so refreshing, and I love hearing her speak about real things and bringing to light my craziness. Thank you so much, JJ Beth. I so appreciate your words and your awesome review. From the bottom of my heart, truly, thank you so much for listening. I know that you have a ton of options, and the fact that you are taking time to listen to the Front Seat Life podcast means absolutely everything to me. If you're interested in learning more about the Front Seat Life way of life in the community, there's a couple ways that you can do that. First is always starting with your personality assessment tool. It's available on my website at jessicabutts.com. It's totally free, and it will help you figure out your personality type so you'll have some idea of what we're talking about. Next is, if you're interested in hiring me for a keynote or some coaching or strategy days or the fabulous and amazing Front Seat Life community, you can find out all about all of that at jessicabutts.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.